How do you take control of a tanker protected by a Russian nuclear submarine without triggering World War III? On January 7, 2026, the United States answered that question. What followed wasn't diplomacy. It wasn't force. It was something far more calculated and far more dangerous. The target was the Marinara, a shadow fleet tanker hauling Venezuelan oil, concealed behind a newly painted Russian flag and shielded by an attack submarine escort. Moscow attempted to block the United States Coast Guard, but combined American, British, and European air power shifted the balance. Advanced Poseidon and Seahawk helicopters dropped a web of sonobuoys from above, clearing the way for the cutter Monroe to take control of the ship. This is how it unfolded. On the morning of Wednesday, January 7, 2026, in the North Atlantic, a geopolitical chess match turned into a kinetic military operation. The United States was enforcing a strict blockade on Venezuelan oil that Moscow had explicitly placed under its protection. This marks part one of what defines a shadow fleet. The seizure capped a weeks-long standoff rooted in Washington's aggressive new policy, a total blockade of Venezuela. The target was a vessel formerly known as the Bella I, a rusting 15-year-old tanker flagged by United States intelligence as part of the Shadow Fleet, a network used by Russia, Iran, and Venezuela to move sanctioned oil and evade enforcement. So where does Russia enter the picture? In December 2025, the Bella I tried to slip past the United States blockade near the Venezuelan coast to load crude. When intercepted by the Coast Guard in the Caribbean, the captain refused to stop, shut off the transponder, went dark, and bolted into the open Atlantic, igniting a 4,000-mile pursuit. What deception did they rely on next? During the transatlantic flight, the crew scrambled to alter the ship's legal identity, attempting to render it untouchable. The hull was repainted, the ship renamed Marinara, and the Russian flag raised. At the same time, Moscow added the vessel to its official registry, declaring that any interference would constitute an attack on the Russian Federation. As the tanker headed toward the strategic gap between Iceland and the United Kingdom, Russia dramatically raised the stakes. Intelligence confirmed that an attack submarine, most likely a Yasin or Akula class, had been dispatched with explicit orders to escort and protect the ship. This was a deliberate anti-access move. By lurking silently below the surface, Russia aimed to force the United States Coast Guard cutter to back off, knowing it lacked the weapons to confront a submarine. To complicate matters further, Russian warships were reported nearby, forming a loose defensive screen that forced United States commanders to proceed with extreme caution. One misstep could have triggered an unintended naval war. Despite the silent threat beneath the waves, United States, British, and European, the command approved the seizure. Their plan was bold: neutralize the submarine not with torpedoes, but with total air dominance. Leading the surface pursuit was the Monroe, a Legend-class cutter that had tracked the Marinara for weeks through brutal Atlantic seas. Before the Monroe could act, the sky had to be controlled. U.S. and British P-8 Poseidon aircraft flooded the area, deploying dense fields of sonobuoys to monitor the submarine's every move. KC-135 Stratotankers kept the aircraft aloft around the clock, while the Royal Air Force joined the operation, deploying rivet-joint planes to strip Russian communications. At dawn on January 7th, the trap closed. The P-8s effectively boxed in the submarine, signaling that any hostile move would guarantee its destruction. With the underwater threat contained, the Monroe closed in. Atlantic seas were too rough for small boats, so the assault went vertical. In a precision operation, special forces fast-roped from hovering helicopters straight onto the tanker's deck. Within minutes, they secured the bridge, shut down the engines, and raised the American flag. The Marinara was seized. But to truly grasp the role of Seahawk helicopters and the broader Coast Guard strategy, we have to zoom out to the larger U.S. military framework. Amphibious assault ships, destroyers, and MQ-9 Reaper drones operate together to enforce oil and narcotics blockades near Venezuela. Warships serve as mobile command hubs and launch platforms, deploying helicopters and surface-to-surface missiles. MQ-9 Reapers provide persistent surveillance and real-time intelligence through advanced sensors, tracking targets with high precision. These drones can also carry and fire precision-guided munitions against vessels. This integrated system enables rapid detection, tracking, and multi-directional action, combining the firepower and mobility of ships and helicopters with the endurance and reach of unmanned aircraft. Together, these assets intercept and block Venezuelan oil shipments and drug trafficking boats. Now let's break down the basic process behind launching an MH-60 Seahawk from an amphibious warship. The operation begins inside the ship's command center, where intelligence on suspicious maritime activity is collected and analyzed. Once a target is identified, launch preparations begin. The MH-60 Seahawk lifts off vertically, or with a short rolling takeoff from the flight deck. Its folding rotors and compact design allow it to operate efficiently within the tight confines of the ship. As the helicopter climbs to operational altitude and heads toward the area of interest, it begins its search. Using onboard radar, electro-optical and infrared sensors, and data links to the ship and other platforms, the Seahawk scans for fast-moving vessels suspected of narcotics trafficking. Sensor data is fused with real-time intelligence from drones and allied assets to sharpen target acquisition. Once the target is located, the MH-60 engages with precision and coordination. It carries AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, air-to-surface weapons designed to disable or destroy hostile vessels from a safe distance. Let's take a closer look at how these assets are used to hunt fast attack boats. Beyond missiles, the Seahawk is also armed with heavy machine guns, including the powerful .50 caliber GAU-16 miniguns mounted on either side of the cabin doors. These weapons deliver sustained suppressive fire that is highly effective at disabling smaller vessels, especially those that can evade missile strikes or in scenarios where missile use is, just impractical. The machine guns also provide defensive fire to protect the helicopter itself, allowing it to maintain constant pressure on hostile boats during interdiction operations. Together, these weapon systems allow the MH-60 Seahawk to execute fast, precise strikes against narco-terrorist boats. Whether engaging targets with Hellfire missiles from long range or applying accurate machine gun fire at close quarters, the Seahawk demonstrates exceptional versatility and dominance in maritime interdiction missions. But why deploy a Seahawk helicopter when a long-endurance drone is available? The MH-60 Seahawk holds a critical advantage in maritime interdiction due to its advanced anti-submarine warfare capabilities, an area where MQ-9 Reaper drones fall short. Here is a closer comparison highlighting that edge. One of the Seahawk's key advantages in anti-submarine warfare is its ability to deploy a dipping sonar system and launch sonobuoys to detect and track submerged targets. Once a submarine is detected, the helicopter can fire a torpedo. After launch, the torpedo, equipped with its own onboard sonar, actively tracks and pursues the submarine until the threat is, neutralized. But how did U.S. naval and aerial surveillance track a suspected drug boat for weeks as part of an intensified anti-narcotics campaign in the Southern Caribbean? The operation combined multi-source intelligence with persistent drone surveillance to identify maritime activity linked to narco-terrorist networks. The vessel under observation was a high-speed go-fast boat, specifically designed for rapid trafficking operations. These boats typically travel between 40 and 60 knots, roughly 46 to 69 miles per hour, or approximately 74 to 111 kilometers per hour across open water. Once the boat crossed from Venezuelan territorial waters into international waters, U.S. authorities positively identified it as part of a smuggling operation believed to be run by the notorious Venezuelan criminal organization Tren de Aragua. Execution of the strike. Let's break down how the operation unfolded. The MQ-9 Reaper drone assigned to the mission was most likely launched from an amphibious naval task force operating in the southern Caribbean. This task force included warships and Marines engaged in both exercises and active operations, platforms that routinely support MQ-9 surveillance and precision strike missions. These vessels provide the necessary launch, command, and control infrastructure for unmanned aerial operations. The MQ-9 Reaper, an unmanned, remotely piloted aircraft, tracked the high-speed boat from above, continuously streaming high-definition video and sensor data to command centers on land and aboard naval vessels. The MQ-9 can operate at altitudes up to 50,000 feet and loiter over a target area for as long as 24 hours, giving it the endurance needed to maintain precise real-time tracking of fast-moving maritime targets. After positive identification and receiving presidential authorization, the drone closed in and launched a single AGM-114 Hellfire missile. The Hellfire is a highly accurate air-to-surface weapon designed to track and destroy fast, maneuvering targets with lethal precision. But how can such a small missile successfully track and hit a speeding boat? Let's examine Hellfire missile guidance and tracking. The AGM-114 Hellfire uses either semi-active laser guidance or millimeter wave radar, allowing it to lock onto and follow rapidly moving targets on water. The MQ-9 Reaper's advanced sensors and targeting pods maintain continuous tracking of the boat, feeding real-time data to the missile after launch. The drone systems calculate the boat's speed, heading, and evasive maneuvers, enabling the missile's guidance system to predict future movement and adjust its flight path accordingly. Speed and maneuverability are critical. Hellfire missiles travel at speeds exceeding Mach 1, over 760 miles per hour or approximately 1,225 kilometers per hour, vastly faster than the target vessel. This allows the missile to close the distance rapidly while making fine course corrections mid-flight. The guidance system compensates for evasive maneuvers by tracking reflected laser or radar signals from the boat, constantly adjusting to changes in speed and direction as it homes in. In the final moments, the missile locks onto the boat's heat or laser signature, significantly increasing the probability of a direct hit, even as the target races across the water. Combined drone and missile capability is what makes this possible. The MQ-9 Reaper's persistent surveillance provides continuous mid-course updates, while the missile's speed and guidance ensure accuracy. This powerful pairing makes striking fast-moving maritime targets, like a Venezuelan speedboat traveling close to 70 miles per hour, not only possible but highly effective. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your comment below. Thank you.